campus newsletter here, which describes two gifts that Emerson has received. And it describes a gift establishing a visiting artists fund, which is intended to, quote, advance the educational goals of the college to prepare students for leadership in communications and the performing arts through mastery of their craft and appreciation of that community service that is an integral part of an artist's work. Well, now, isn't that an idealistic notion? What's wonderful about this gift, what's amazing about this gift, is that Emerson has the opportunity to work toward this idealistic notion, not only now, but for future generations. That is an extraordinary opportunity. It's an opportunity which will extend to the time when Taylor and Hillary and their colleagues could attend the school. It's an opportunity which will extend to a time when my son, who is 4, could attend this school. It's an opportunity which will be extended to a time when my son's son could attend this school. That is extraordinary. Thank you. Thank all of you for all those generations. Let's raise our glasses. To all of it.
To all of you.
As Helen would say, cheers.
Well, Charlie did the generational piece. I'm going to do the mother piece. There's a way in which today is about mothers and their daughters for many generations. And so what we are going to try and do is to share just a little bit of Helen with her family as she enjoyed the Emerson years, and to see if we can make part of her education and her experiences at the college become real and alive for all of you. The lights are a part of Emerson today. So we never around here have a performance without videoing it and committing it to a piece of history. So one of the things we're going to be able to do is to share with you at the end of this a tape that you can all have about the college and something about your grandmother and great-grandmother's education here. And I'm going to let the work speak for itself.
On September 28, 1908, a 19-year-old Helen Elizabeth Roger entered the freshman class at Emerson College of Oratory. With the budding renaissance of culture occurring at that time, a budding Back Bay, not to mention women's suffrage, it must have been an exciting time to be a woman and to be in Boston. So many avenues available that never were before. It's still an exciting time to be in Boston and to be affiliated with Emerson College. In the 90 years or so since Helen matriculated at Emerson, many changes have happened. Changes in technology, in science, in hemlines. But in spite of all of the changes, many similarities still exist. In 1908, Chickering Hall housed Emerson College. Chickering Hall was a brand new state-of-the-art building with beautiful rehearsal studios and wonderful rehearsal halls. Today, we have 180 Tremont with beautiful state-of-the-art studios and wonderful rehearsal halls. In 1908, A very popular faculty member, Henry Lawrence Southwick, had been appointed president. Today, a former faculty member, Jackie Liebergott, is the president of Emerson. Even where Helen lived, on Westland Avenue, is an area inhabited by Emerson students today. But what was life like for a young woman of this progressive era? I consulted my own personal bookshelves filled with popular culture of the era and etiquette to find out that, yes, white gloves were still to be worn when one went calling. In one text from 1906 entitled Correct Social Usage by 18 distinguished authors, I found a section on chaperones as it regarded college students of particular interest. With the chaperone at hand, a girl feels safe and cared for. If anything were wrong, the chaperone would certainly tell her. However, a college girl is an exception. She is usually a self-reliant young woman who can be well trusted to take care of herself on her journey between her home and her alma mater. But the journeys to and from school are one thing, and the social affair is quite another. When the untrammeled young creature who has been virtually her own mistress for 4 years comes back home, she should be made to understand that when she goes into society, she must do as society people do. The fact that she is able to buy her own railway ticket and check her own trunk does not free her from social obligations. She must submit to a chaperone as meekly as though she had never been out of the smoke from her home chimneys. In this evening's program, I hope to paint a bit of a picture of what it was like in the first decade of this century to be out of the smoke of one's home chimneys and to be a student at Emerson College. Ruth Barnum, the vice president of the class of 1911, submitted a piece to the 1908 Emersonian, the college yearbook, about her first impressions here at Emerson. In a wonderful city on the coast of a great sea, which men call the Atlantic, is a structure called Chickering Hall. Noble men and women are seen passing at all times in its hallways and corridors. The visitor stands spellbound, enchanted by the melody of beautiful voices that waft out into the soft evening air. Even passers-by may hear exquisite tones floating out into the air. Each year, numbers of noble youths and fair maidens wend their way to this mecca of art and beauty, there to add new voices to the number and derive inspiration therefrom. In the autumn of 1908, there came, as usual, a goodly number of maids and an occasional man to see the famous shrine and perchance try if it might do for them what it had done for others. Scarcely had they arrived when the Emerson spirit was met to them. The spirit boldly took possession of the new arrivals, determined that their first days should be pleasant ones. They were met on all sides by people interested in their welfare. They were escorted to places of beauty and interest by day, and they danced at night to enchanting music in the palace halls. They came in contact daily with the charming men and women called the faculty, and best of all, each one was given one for their very own as a friend and a counselor. The president they knew and loved from the first. So kind was he, so friendly and so deeply interested in the personal welfare of each and every one that they all declared him a prince among them. What more could be desired? If one could be happy anywhere, she ought to be so here. But it was too good to last. Before long, they found that if they were to stay and enjoy these pleasures, they must bestir themselves. Exercise must be taken, assignments committed, and themes written. And what a rigorous schedule they had, with classes in debate, vocal technique, Shakespeare, gesture, gymnastics, literary criticism, psychology, and logic, as well as a minimum of 3 visits to the chapel every week. Well, President Southwick also presented a challenge to these young people coming into the class of 1908 with a call for personal responsibility to use their days at Emerson wisely. from the Emerson College magazine, November of 1908, Personal Responsibility. Among those who in years past have gone out from Emerson, there are few who, when looking back, do not emphasize most frequently that Emerson College of Oratory has meant to them a school of life, of inward enrichment, and of higher vision. They will tell you that Emerson stands for character and efficiency, that one's art can rise no higher than the artist himself, that to elevate the art, one must elevate the artist who creates it. The purpose of Emerson College of Oratory is to develop the sources of power, not only imitate its manifestations. Many have come here to have their voices trained, and they learn that the voice is the reporter of the man, of his physical, emotional, intellectual, and spiritual states, that to clear the stream, one must purify the fountain. They came to obtain grace and presence, and they found that grace of body is largely an outward, visible manifestation of the spiritual state, and presence is a sign manual of a balanced, well-rounded personality. They came to learn the technique of interpretation, and they learned it, but they found themselves plunged and bathed in great literature with all the vast vision and awakened perception and appreciation which an orator and artist moves and has his being in. They came to get what they could for themselves, and they found that to receive, they must first give. In a letter a few days ago from an Emersonian, I found this sentence: "Above all else that Emerson did for me was the development of a sense of responsibility." I've taken that as my key word with which to start the year: personal responsibility. The end of education is the development of an enlightened responsibility for others. We shall aid you in its development by its exercise. We shall place responsibilities upon you and hold you up to your best selves at all times. But the truth we would impress fellow students is that this place is, by your own election, your place, in which to make the most of yourselves. And with your entrance into this school, as it is upon the entrance into any community, there comes, whether you first realize it or not, a duty to the community in which you live. You become your brother's keeper. No resident is truly a citizen until heart and mind bear their burden of their city's welfare. Each one is responsible for the use of his talents, be they 1 or 50. If you can help and serve, surely there will be a place for you in this world, for it is far too selfish to let alone any who can help and serve. Well, Helen took this quite to heart by becoming a member of Emerson's YWCA. As part of their outreach, they taught in the charity schools of Cambridge. Today, members of the Emerson community participate in Boston's Partners in Education, and specifically the Read Aloud program at the Quincy School in Boston. President Southwick's call for responsibility extended to performance selections as well. In the senior commencement play, A Royal Family, a comedy in 3 acts, Helen Roger played the lead role of Princess Angela. Princess Angela was a beautiful, romantic young lady with some documented spunk. She would not be told what she must do. Unfortunately, her father has betrothed her to a foreign prince whom she has never met in order to prevent an upcoming war. Well, on a trip to the countryside, before meeting her betrothed, she falls in love with the handsome Duke, who is the prince in disguise. From Act 2 of A Royal Family, a comedy of 3 acts by Robert Marshall. I want to ask you something, Duke Berescun. Would you put duty, the duty one owes to one's country, before love? Ah, I know what you are thinking of, Princess. I know you shrink from this proposed marriage to Prince Victor. Don't, Princess. Don't shrink from it. Well, I can hardly see. Not half an hour ago, telegrams came. Risings have broken out on the frontier, and 11 men have been killed. Oh no! Oh, please don't tell me that. Yes, it's true. And this will go on and on and on until something in some way prevents it. Surely, if an act of sacrifice on your part, whatever the suffering to yourself, can bring peace to the country, you will place patriotism on a higher plane than love can ever attain. You don't know what you ask of me. I think I do. And yet I ask it. 11 silent homes. Yes. All of a sudden, it does seem clear. It is my duty. And you, dear Duke, have shown it to me. But you ask me to leave this happy land of daydreams and enter willingly into a life of suffering. What if I have already learned to love? What indeed? Listen. The workers, they're coming in from the vineyards. Keep quite still. One can almost hear their words. What are they, princess? They're singing, "Sweet, I'm coming through the meadow, sleep the vines in summer dew, and I see thee in the sunlight, waiting for their lover true." How happy they are, poor hard-working souls. Yes, I will do my duty, and they shall still sing their sunset songs and rest in the shade of the vines, for there are thousands of them. And I, only one solitary girl. But I wish that today, my last day of freedom, could last forever and ever. So linger, dear sun, be lazy in your setting. Has it struck you, Duke, how much bluer the sky is today than it ever used to be? Yes, and I never breathed air nearly as clear as it is today. I feel like a young Hercules. So do I. And I never saw flowers as we have seen today, together. But everything has seemed so wonderful since you came. The birds never used to sing as they sing now, and wasn't it fun today when we found that little waterfall playing the tune like the love duet in Tristan? The odd thing is, I never found this place quite so attractive before. It's an ideal spot for lovers, isn't it, Angela? Oh, stop. You mustn't call me that. I've been forgetting. I am not free, Duke, and I owe a duty to others. But how did you pronounce my name just then? No. Perhaps you'd better not. Yes, I will marry Prince Victor. Well, I don't want to ruin it for any of you in case you never get a chance to see this 1910 play, but they do live happily ever after. Students at Emerson did not just perform in plays, they also gave recitals. According to the March 11th Emerson College Magazine, in the late winter of 1911, Miss Helen Roger gave a recital at the First Methodist Church, Cliftondale, Massachusetts. She gave a miscellaneous program which was heartily enjoyed by her large and appreciative audience. Her blending of humor and pathos was also admirable. Miss Rogers is a charming girl who's preparing herself for the work of a public reader. She's a fine stage presence, good voice, and high ideals in her work. It It's not entirely clear what pieces she did in this recital that was highly praised. However, she did perform in a senior recital on January 11, 1911. It's possible that the following cutting from The Child, which she performed, was included in that performance. From The Very Small Person, a collection of stories, The Child by Annie Hamilton Donnell. The child had it all reasoned out in her own way. At first, it had not been very satisfactory, but she had gradually, with a child's optimism, evolved a certain degree of content. She had only one confidant. The confidant, oddly, was a picture in the silent, awe-inspiring company room. It represented a lady with a beautiful face and a baby in her arms. The lady was always there, smiling down at the child, and the child would look up at her. The child told the lady everything, standing down under the picture and looking up at it adoringly. You see, there are a great many kinds of fathers and mothers, but I'm only talking about my kind. I'm going to love my father one day and my mother the next, like this. My mother Monday, my father Tuesday, my mother Wednesday, and so on right along through the week. Of course, you can't divide 7 evenly, but I'm going to love them both on Sunday. Just one day of the week. You don't suppose it will cause any harm, do you? Oh, darling lady, I wish you could bow or nod your head. I'm only 8, you see, and I'm not very reasonable, but I couldn't think of a better way. The child's home, though luxurious, had to her the effect of being a double tenement. An invisible partition divided her father's side from her mother's, and her own little white room was straddled across the dividing line, part on one side and part on the other. She could remember when there had been no such partition, but it seemed to her now a pleasant dream which she longed to dream again. The next day, the child loved her father, as it was Tuesday. She went about it in her thorough, conscientious little way. She had made out a program, and at the top of the sheet, in her clear, upright hand, it said, "Ways to love my father." And after that, 1, bringing in his newspaper. 2, kissing him good morning. 3, ranging his study table. 4, putting flowers on the study table. 5, taking up his mail. 6, reaching up to rub my cheek against his cheek. 7, learning to read so that I can read his books. There were many other items on the list. The child had used 3 pages for her program. The last 2 lines read, praying for him and kissing him good night. The Wednesday program was almost identical with this one exception, my mother instead of my father, for the child did not wish to be partial. During the morning, she went into the lady portrait and reported her progress so far. "Dear lady, I'm getting along splendidly. He liked the flower, and when I rubbed my cheek against his, and when I kissed him. How I know he did is because he smiled when I did them. I wish my father would smile all the time." At lunchtime, the child stole upstairs and deposited a little folded note on top of her father's manuscript. The formal invitation read, "Dear father, you are respectably invited to put your little girl to bed tonight at 7:30. Yours very truly, Elizabeth. RSVP. P.S. The little girl is me." The child's father ate his lunch silently and a little hastily, as if to get it over. On the opposite side of the table, the child's mother ate her lunch silently and a little hastily. It was the usual way of their meals. Then it was over and they separated, each to his own side of the house. The child found her answer lying on her plate at nursery tea. "Dear little girl, who is you? Your father will be happy to accept your kind invitation for 7:30 this evening. Will you please call for him, as he is a little bashful?" She was ready at 7 o'clock. He had been ready since 6:30. Without a word, but only an odd little smile that set the child at ease, he took her hand and went back with her. "This is my room. You've never been in my room before, have you? This is where I keep my clothes, and this is my undressing chair. You never unbuttoned a little girl before, have you? I'll have to learn you." "Teach you," he corrected gently. "Well, you begin with my feet and go backwards. And now it is time to pray me. It is pleasanter to kneel to somebody. Would you kneel to me? Now I lay me down to..." I don't want to do that one tonight. "Dear Lord God, if thee please." This is my very particular night because my father's in it. Bless my father. I've loved him all day today, and I'll love him all day again the day after tomorrow. But tomorrow I must love my mother. I wish I could love each of them every day, all day, forever and ever. Amen. "Everything's going wonderfully," the child one day reported to the lady. "Only sometimes I get a little dizzy trying to remember if it's Mother's Day or Father's." And it was at that bedtime, after an unusually active day, that the child fell asleep at her prayer. Her head sagged more and more until it was resting sideways on the supporting knees. "Shh, don't move. Sit perfectly still." A slender figure moved into the room. "Richard, don't move." "Oh, the poor little thing. Do you think you could slip out while I hold her head up?" "Oh, Mama's tired, little baby." "Let me sit down. Now, put her here in my arms." The transfer was safely made. They faced each other, she with the baby, and he looking down on them. Their eyes met steadily. He stooped to kiss the child as she stooped to kiss the child, and their kisses seemed to meet. She did not turn away this time, but smiled instead. "Oh, Richard, I want her every day." "And Mary, I want her every day." "Then there's only one way around. Yes, we must change things in this house." And the child was smiling in her sleep, as if in a dream, as if she could hear every word that they said. Good evening.
Well, that was wonderful to have Susie share that with you. Susie's on the faculty of the college. She teaches interpretation and public speaking, and of course, called voice and articulation. That used to be called theater,
It was voice and articulation when I took it.
but when Helen took it, it was called,
Maybe elocution?
uh,
I just know the exercises.
well, just to prove to you, we'll do one more thing, which is, Susie, if you would do an exercise,
Okay.
and then we'll let Peter do it.
If I do one, I have to have you all do it with me. Being on the teacher side of things, I'm going to, it's something called negative practice. And that means you practice it right, then you practice it wrong, you practice it right again. And we're going to do something called overly open throat. And it goes like this, and I'm going to make you do it with me. I am now speaking with an overly open throat. I am now speaking with an overly open throat. I am now speaking with an overly open throat. Now all of you, remember, do it right, and then relax your throat as much as you can, and then do it wrong. Let's see how you do. All right? I am now speaking with an overly open throat. Open it up. I am now speaking with an overly open throat. I am now speaking with an overly open throat. It's also, hey yogi baby, it's that sort of thing. So you can practice relaxing your voice, because we get a lot of people with tense voices because we're in such a tense society.
Anyway, Susie can do them. Ellen actually can do them.
We're talking about Ellen.
I can hear Peter doing them, and
Peter and I did them together.
They're earlier.
and they're
Oh,
a
my.
piece of the Emerson experience that everyone shares. So we had a good time sharing it with you.
That's nice.
And thanks
Thank
for
you.
doing that.
Thank you.
And thanks to the students. Now, let's see if we can find just a few gifts. Okay, thanks.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
I really wanted to share a piece of Helen with you. So, from modern technology, we were actually able to find via the internet, only on the internet, a copy of the book that contains the reading from her recital. And so, that is for you. The first copy we found that Susie worked out of was at the Boston Athenaeum. And we had a sense that we could find the book somewhere, and we absolutely couldn't. So somebody in desperation finally typed the name of the book on the internet, and somebody came back and said, here's the book. So you have a copy of the piece. Okay. And then we decided that Helen's grandchildren should have something to remember tonight by. And so this is for you to put away until you're older. That's for Taylor and for...
This is the book.
Yes.
How wonderful. Look, it cost $1.25.
That's for Alexa. This is for you, Hillary, and that's a way to remember tonight.
Wonderful.
And you can open them. They're a piece of old Boston. And you'll all sit and wonder what you're going to do with them. It'll be fun.
Little boy, overalls, and
And that recital.
the boy, the adopted, this recital was the little girl who should have.
No.
No.
But it is from Wednesday. We at one point thought we found the first edition, and then found it disappeared.
Oh, this is lovely, thank you.
But we thought that would be a nice remembrance
Oh,
of the.
that's lovely. I'm the little girl who should have been a boy. Something that I did grow up with that mother did was James Whitcomb Riley. Constantly.
Later on,
Evelyn and
in our life, in your life.
Taylor has to figure out how he's going to use it. It's for something very important that he'll sometime get.
That's very mysterious.
No, he'll see it. Yes, they're fun.
Thank you.
Sure. We're just glad to have a
The very
chance to
small
share that.
person was who it was. Yeah, that's lovely. Where did you find it?
Minneapolis,